Citizens are increasingly critical of the nuisance that excessive mass tourism can generate, and we share that criticism in the government. We are working to achieve sustainability and balance.
Well, perhaps you've heard that Parisians are rude or Venetians are aloof, but if you had to contend with millions of tourists every year in your neighborhood, how friendly would you be? Well, for those who'd already lost patience with the masses of foreign visitors, this summer marks their step over the edge. A wave of anti-tourism protests has hit several of Europe's most popular tourist destinations. Marches have been held in Venice and Athens, while the tires of tourist buses in Barcelona have been slashed. The tourist industry is a huge cash cow, but locals don't see much of that revenue going toward infrastructure and services. Instead, they say most of the money is funneled into private companies or to the federal government. Well, joining me now from Madrid is Taleb Rifai. He is the Secretary General of the World Tourism Organization. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, tell us if you think these protests are legitimate. Do they have cause for their complaints?
Well, let me start by where you ended. You said that something is wrong about the way the tourism is distributing its benefit to the people. And I believe this is the core of the problem. The tourists are supposed to be the most friendly and the most sympathetic and the most contributor to the growth and the economy of the community. They're not doing it that way. So whether they're legitimate or not is not my point here. My point is that we are denying, because of our lack of management, the great benefits that tourism can bring to the community. It's a matter of management, and its management has to be done by the central government of each and every city. When you see so many tourists coming, occupying the city, without having the city benefit from it, this is where you get some of the resentment.
Okay.
Growth is not the enemy, and numbers are not the enemy. It's how you grow.
Okay, then if you can, walk us through the issues that result from poorly managed tourism.
For example, most of the cities that you're talking about have cruise ships coming to their ports on a regular basis. These cruises dump thousands of people at one time, at one point, into one place. These people need to be managed in a much better way. The arrangement and the agreement with the cruises has to be done in a different way. Instead of negotiating how much more they should pay to the city, they should negotiate how much more they should stay in the city, extend their length of stay, distribute their crowds, don't let them stay in the city center, create attractions at the peripheries of the city. In cities like Barcelona or Venice, for example. In Barcelona, if you just go half a kilometer, 400, 500 meters away from the city center, you will be having people that say, where are the tourists? On the other hand, people in the city center are complaining from too much tourists. We should create incentives to attract people to go outside of the city center and of the concentration areas. These are some of the tips that you could do. In negotiating, of course, with the cruisers as well. Cruise ships should be able to provide vouchers to distribute their visitors into different parts of the city. Everybody will be a winner in that case. The cruises will get their percentage out of selling these vouchers. The service providers will get their share of benefits. And the visitors will also experience a different, diverse experience all around the city.
Okay,
we have developed some very good manuals for that, but unfortunately, some of the city administrators are not listening to us, and they're following much of the popular uprising and the popular trends like any populist government is doing around the world.
But what about the commercial interests involved? I mean, it's very difficult for cruise tour operators in particular to tweak their schedules. I mean, the reason people go on cruises is because they want to see 10 cities in 10 days, and that gives them only a few hours' time to be dropped off. If they have to change that, they will have to look at reduced profits. Are you ready to take that on with corporate interests?
Definitely, they should be able to. What they are doing is they're reducing their profits by paying cities more for their landing fees. This is what the negotiating is all about between cities and cruisers. How much taxes do they pay per tourist when they land? This should not be the criteria. Cruises can make more money satisfy the people more with a more diverse and more real experience. This year, my dear, is the year of International Year for Sustainable Tourism for Development, as declared by the United Nations General Assembly. The motto of this year is travel, enjoy, respect.
Okay.
It's the respect part that we're missing here.
But I mean, let's look at the protesters themselves. Do you think they've been respectful? Because in some senses, it almost looks like, I don't want to say xenophobia, perhaps that's too strong of a term, but they really look like they're anti-foreign visitors. They don't want them there. Do you worry about where they're coming from and how drastic their movement
Definitely.
is? Go ahead.
Definitely. If you look at the motives and the igniters behind this, you would get your answers. I don't want to point any fingers of accusation, because usually we are accustomed to say, and we are in principle say, that people cannot be wrong. But in this case, there are agitators. The city administrators are not also innocent from these issues. So I don't say I sympathize, but I don't say I cannot sympathize also with these protesters. Some of these protesters are genuine, but others are really just looking for a moment of fame and a moment to claim some glory. The very same people that are now protesting against tourists are going to be the first to cry, where are the tourists when they go away? It's a very serious game that they're playing, because at the end of the day, people will stop going to places where they don't feel welcome. You never go to a place that you don't feel welcome.
Indeed.
And if that happens, the loss is going to be great. 1 out of 10 jobs all over the world are created by travel and tourism.
Okay.
$3.2 billion are spent every day in travel and tourism. We're going to lose much of that, and these people are going to be regretting what they're doing today.
They need to be careful what they wish for. Okay, Taleb Rifai, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Newsmakers.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.